Okay, hi everyone who's arriving. We know there's more still to come, but we want to start sharp on time. So welcome to the Aberdeen-Norway Gateway 2021. I'm just going to run through some quick housekeeping before Brett kicks off today's session. So first of all, please can everybody stay muted, unless obviously you're speakers, so that when the speakers are speaking, we don't have any interruptions. Please, we encourage you to put any questions you have in the chat. We'll come back to them at the end, so don't worry about waiting to the end. Put them in as we go along and we'll come back to them. And also feel free to introduce yourself. We had a lot of made some good introductions yesterday at the end of the meeting today. If you pop in the chat bar, there's 3 dots. If you click the 3 dots, it will save it so you can get everything from there. And other than that, just enjoy. So Brett, I'm going to hand it straight over to you.
Thank you, Stacey, and good afternoon, everyone that's joining us from Aberdeen and Norway, and good morning for anyone that's joining us from Houston in the Americas this morning. So a very warm welcome to the 8th annual Aberdeen-Norway Gateway. Norway is a country that I have a deep affection for. I have done a lot of business there. I have travelled there personally since a school exchange in 1988, and I've enjoyed frequent business and leisure trips there ever since. Always a pleasure for me hosting and delivering the Norway Gateway, and this 8th year is no different. We have a fantastic lineup of speakers for you today, some fantastic content and a record number of people registering interest. So that shows, I think, that Norway remains absolute on everyone's agenda, looking at the international opportunities. So as I say, we've got a packed agenda today. So without further ado, I would like to just quickly highlight who we've got speaking today, and then I'll hand over to the first one. So we have the UK Ambassador to Norway, Richard Wood. We have Leif Johan Sevland, President and CEO of the ONS Foundation. And we have Kira from Norwegian British Chamber of Commerce, Tony from RamBase, James from Offshore, Johan from Stronachs Energy Team, Ragnar from the Front Group, and Luigi and Andrew from Aberdeen Harbour Board and Sea Cargo. So lots of brilliant speakers today. So without further ado, I would like to introduce and thank the UK Ambassador to Norway, Richard Wood, for making the time to join us today and support the 8th annual Aberdeen-Norway Gateway. Richard, thank you for coming, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. It's absolutely my pleasure to take the time to talk to you all, because I think this is really important for a UK ambassador in Norway. There's nothing more important than this kind of dialogue. And of course, this event comes at a very interesting time in the week of a Norwegian election, where energy and the green shift and environment has featured very heavily. It is also the week of the UN General Assembly, where we will have a very heavy climate focus, unusually. And of course, hence the backdrop, it is 6 weeks before the COP26 summit in Glasgow. So I hope you'll forgive me if I focus a little bit on that agenda this year when I speak to you, because I think the energy shift has been a central pillar for the UK of our ability to cut emissions faster than any other G20 country. And it must be a central pillar of the whole world's efforts to limit the effects of climate change. So we've been helped a little bit on momentum by the IPCC report from the UN on the 9th of August. It really kick-started the debate, including here in Norway, and will hopefully increase momentum for success in Glasgow. What it told us is, in many senses, what we already knew. Progress is too slow and ambition is too low. So the UK presidency of COP is trying to keep 1.5 degrees alive as a real achievable target for us in reducing emissions. One of the major challenges we have is to show the developing world that we're prepared to address the financing of climate change mitigation for them, and to make available the technology and capabilities that everyone needs to build economies in a sustainable way. So I mention that because although it doesn't appear on the face of it to have relevance to UK Norway, in fact, what that does is produce enormous opportunities in a global sustainable energy business. I mentioned the UK's record in cutting emissions. What we've seen from the energy shift is for that every pound invested by the government in the green economy, we attract many more in investment from the private sector and create more and more jobs. Whether it is Humber, Teesside, Lincolnshire, Norfolk, or of course Aberdeen, jobs are being created in CCS, hydrogen, wind, electrification, and all of the services that support that. So the success of this model in energy, government leadership, in private investment, subsidy structures, has led us to widen our ambition and our scope. And you will have noticed the Prime Minister's 10-point plan for a green industrial revolution applies just that principle to sectors such as carbon capture, zero emissions vehicles, including passenger planes, which the Prime Minister calls Jet Zero, housing infrastructure, green shipping, green finance, in fact, and many, many more. So I believe there are opportunities for companies who work in the energy sector to apply their expertise in many of these areas. And the hydrogen sector is a really good example. The new UK hydrogen strategy, brand new, £1 billion of government investment that will lay the foundations for a hydrogen economy by 2030. And as we've seen with the wind energy sector, most of the expertise on hydrogen will come from the existing energy sector and companies. And we believe it will be worth over £1 billion and support 9,000 jobs by 2030. And we think we can work very closely with Norway on this, which will help us both gain a market advantage. The North Sea has always been an incubator for new technology and advances in the energy sector, always has been. And the UK and Norway have a unique opportunity, I think, to ensure that we're not only greening offshore industries that already exist, but that we are at the forefront of development of those new technologies that I was talking about. And I think that is really important, that we are clear with ourselves that the two are not mutually exclusive. There's been a big debate in Norway about the need for oil and gas going forward while developing new technologies, and that's very much the approach the British government is working on and wants to work with Norway on. When Kwasi Kwarteng visited Oslo in June, he and Norwegian Minister Tina Bru released a joint statement in which they said, energy is at the core of the close relationship between the UK and Norway. And they said that we were embarking on a fresh, exciting chapter, establishing a new phase of cross-border energy cooperation. And I see that in my job every day. I see that in my conversations with Norwegian private sector, with British companies operating here, and I hope also with the new government when it comes in. So what do I see, for those of you in the UK, what do I see as particular opportunities and trends in Norway? And perhaps Norwegian speakers after me can corroborate or correct this. For me, I think the areas that are moving quickest in development in the Norwegian energy-related economy, the green economy, are battery development. 5 mega factories under development in Norway, and 1 e-marine battery recycling facility. There's also technologies for decarbonisation of shipping, whether that's hydrogen, ammonia, or electric. There is the electrification of the Norwegian continental shelf, currently 17 projects underway there. And excitingly for me, because I've been looking at this for a long time since I arrived, there's an upcoming offshore wind round in Norway, and likewise, of course, further rounds in the UK, which gives us a lot of scope to be working together. I would also list digitalization for energy efficiency. We've got an interconnector treaty that I don't know if I should tell you this, I'm signing it tomorrow with the Norwegian minister to allow for potential for multi-purpose connection. And finally, as I've mentioned briefly before, CCUS and hydrogen, both countries committed to technology and all scenarios to get to net zero, including that base technology. Of course, there are some differences. Norway is probably more committed to electrification than the UK, but those base technologies will be the basis for both of our countries on reaching net zero. And of course, some very exciting carbon capture projects already underway. Scotland has the Acorn project and Norway has Longship and Northern Lights. So fantastic basis for working together. I'm looking forward to a really interesting period in UK-Norway industrial and energy cooperation. It has always been there. We have now, and we always have had, very similar interests and similar values in the direction of energy and greening the economy. And we have very complementary industries which will help each other to get there. So for all of those reasons, that is why I'm very happy to take part today and to listen to what other speakers and questioners have to say. That will definitely help me in my work. Thank you very much, Brett.
Thank you very much, Richard. And once again, thank you for making the time to be here today. We really appreciate it. So on with our next speaker, and I'm delighted to welcome back Leif Johan. And Leif Johan, former mayor of Stavanger, is now the ONS president and CEO. So I've asked him to come and share some of the exciting plans. I very much look forward to being at ONS in late August, early September 2022. And I'm sure many others here will be wanting to hear what's planned. So Leif, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Brett, and thank you for your kind invitation to address this very important audience. And good afternoon from Stavanger, Norway, which I could see a beautiful picture in your background, Brett.
Yeah, not quite the same though, is it, being there? And
also, if I may underline actually what your, the ambassador just addressed you. If I should have been in the North Sea for the time being, and if there should be traffic lights in the North Sea, it would be in one color, and that would be green. There is so much activity, there is so much ongoing projects, and there is so much new in the energy transition coming up, that this is going to be a very promising place to be and do business in many, many years. I would also, at ONS, we will see all these opportunities and discuss all these opportunities coming up. In Norway, and the relationship between Aberdeen and Stavanger, which has been very strong for decades and generation. Also have to say that when the oil industry came to both of our cities, that strengthened the already very good relations. And the oil and gas industry, and especially the gas industry, is going to be important. There are going to be a lot of activities in Norway for the future as well. But we know that the times, they are changing, and there is other kinds of energy coming up. But if you will like to do business with oil and gas companies, there is a booming activities for the next 3, 4, 5, maybe 10 years in the North Sea, mainly around existing fields, redeveloping, new development. That the list is long and the activities is many. So that's one important issue happening. And then we have all these projects mentioned by the ambassador. Either it's joint battery initiatives coming up, if it's the offshore wind, bottom fixed or floating, or if the CCSU, hydrogen, the longboat, the project, the Northern Light projects, etc., etc. We even have projects with offshore sun, which could be very promising. So you will see the energy transition for real is happening in the North Sea. Once the fishery province, then the fishery oil and gas province. Now we are all living together, the fisheries with the energy. And in what we are working with is the energy province with so many opportunities. And all this, for the next slide, you will see that all this is going to be addressed at ONS 2022. We started to work with renewable energy in 2008 at ONS, and it's been important to us since then. But now the real change has happened, and you will see all the new players, the energy mix in the energy landscape coming up, and all this activity is going to be shown you at ONS 2022. And we have made a team. For the next slide, you will see that we have actually, it's the clue in the society, trust, which is the main team for ONS 2022. And in the next slide, if I could share with you a video of maybe 1.5 minutes, you will see, we will mention for you and address to you how we have been thinking when we have decided that team. So if you could follow that, and I'll be back to you in 1 minute and 25 seconds, I think.
I am trust. I am the glue of society. I make people work better together. I make businesses, organizations, and even whole countries thrive. I am trust. I push progress for mankind. I am the basis of innovation, and I create faith in a better future. I am trust, but I have changed. You can't see me, but you'll notice when I'm not around. Without me, growth will decrease and cooperation will become difficult. I am trust, even though the world looks different. Much have changed, how people meet and interact, how companies develop, but I am still around. I am still trust. I am still the foundation of innovation, transparency, and sustainable energy. I make opponents talk, and younger generations challenge the establishment. And I still create a common ground for everyone who wants to push the world forward. I'm here today, and I'll be here tomorrow. I am trust.
So today, tomorrow, and in 2022 at ONS, trust is going to be extremely important. The clue in the society. We trust our leaders. We trust that they are able to actually discuss and find solutions of important issues of global interest, like the climate action being needed. We trust our customers. We trust our clients. We trust our providers. We trust each other, and knowing that we are able to work together in a very, very good way. And this is going to be addressed at ONS. And on the next slide, you will see all the different stages which we are going to have. And first, not to forget and to start with the exhibition. 23,000 square meters exhibition net with companies from all over the world. And the interest is higher today than it was 2 years ago on the same date. So it's a huge interest for the exhibition. And we see it's a lot of all the companies which we have seen being at ONS, but from being an E&P company, they are now energy companies, and they have a broad energy perspective of what they are doing. And then we have this program at ONS. We are so proud of it. In combination of the exhibition, we have set up arenas for more than 9 different stages. We have more than 700 speakers coming in. Last time we had 18,500 people, not being at ONS. That number was more than 60,000, and 18,500 people listening to our presentations. So we will have, as you see, the conference, the center court, the international markets, scale-ups, young technical sessions, summits, and then you will also see the renewable markets. And the renewable markets is going to be a full week program with different parts of the renewable low emission industry coming up. And I will be back to that on the next slide. And here you will see that on the next slide you will see we have the public debate. We're going to bring, we have Northern Europe's biggest dancing floor in Stavanger, and we use it for ONS. We use it for hospitality. We use it for music and entertainment. Now we will also use it to have the energy discussions downtown, continuing the debate from the meeting places in the exhibition area. And then we have this new energy committees. We are addressing and setting a full week program for hydrogen, CCS, offshore wind, batteries, and solar. And we have, for only those committees, we have more than 135 energy experts working with our program. We have people from 14 different nations working with it. We have think tanks, we have academia, we have small, medium-sized enterprises, and we have all the major companies being here. Then we will open up our scale-up launch, let the enterprises meet the established business, let them say how to do business together. We have more than 700 speakers already mentioned, and we will have the energy agenda, where we have energy talks, we have partnerships, and we are also making publications and research report, being sure to give the best background being possible for all of our visitors to Stavanger. So then on the next slide, you will see what's coming up. This is Brett, a picture from regular afternoon in Stavanger. Some firework, some fun. This is from ONS, something probably 2018 on the Wednesday. And we're doing this again, meeting people back to life, being so grateful for how our governments have taken care of us in this terrible situation we have been in for the last 18, 19 months. But now we are ready to be free, and we are ready to meet each other people, to do business, and to discuss the future. And so we're going to do at ONS. And on the last slide, you will see the exhibition halls. Several of them are already filled up by exhibitors, sold out. But we have 20 to maybe 30% of the area is still being able for new clients. And you wouldn't miss it for the world. So I hope to see you for the next slide at ONS 2022. I look so much forward to it. We will be in touch with Wideroe, I'm very sure, hotels, whatever we can, to bring as many people from Scotland to Norway and to celebrate the future of energy. And we trust that we will meet again. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Leif. And I would just like to say to everyone on the session today, I personally invested the time to go to ONS 2016, ONS 2018, and stayed there for 5 days, both times, and got huge amount of connections, business, but also enjoyment, because I think there is no city of all the energy shows around the world and conferences that does it quite as well as Stavanger and ONS do. It is an exhibition, it is a conference, but it's so much more. It's culture. It's really worth taking the time to go and see. So and I will certainly be going. So thank you for that, Leif.
Thank you, Brett.
Okay, without further ado, I would like to introduce another Norwegian, this time one in London, to speak to us and bring us an update on a very old institution that's been around well over 110 years. Kira, the General Manager of the Norwegian British Chamber of Commerce. Kira, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Brett. Thank you very much, Brett, and thank you for the opportunity to take part again this year for this. I'm going to be very brief. Yes, we are very old, 1905, no, 6. So the very same year, Norway and Britain started the diplomatic relations. Anyway, we are a business organization to support and to help other Norwegian and British businesses. Next slide, please. Just past that. And Britain is the biggest export market for Norway, accounts for about 20% of all the trade. We are here to promote trade between Britain and Norway, together with our partners in Team Norway, and also to facilitate the relationship and to connect between the people and companies. Next. We are today 105 companies, about half of them in Norway, we head office, and the rest here in the UK. Cross sectors, most of the sectors we have members from. Next. We have some premier partners. The newest one came in a couple of weeks ago, Aker Horizons. Very important to us and very important to the energy markets. All Aker Horizons purely renewable energy, and that is aligned with what Richard said about what is the future. Next, just an overview of our other partner members. We have been in energy, oil and gas, as it used to be for many years. We are diversifying, but and now into renewables. So this is just an overview of the companies we have on the partner list today. Next. We have made the last year, we haven't had much events, some online, but we have made some very hands-on programs, which is very directly helpful to SMEs coming especially from Norway into the UK. Matchmaking services, so market research, and also the news program, a bespoke leads newsletter. It's actually the logarithms for individual newsletters are created. So you will have leads, live leads into your email account whenever you want, a week, a month, or whatever. Next, please. We also have network partners in Norway and the UK, and that is industry clusters, trade association, chamber of commerce, and academias, important organizations to any industries. Next. These are the postponed events we were supposed to have this year in the autumn. Unfortunately, we had to postpone all of them. They will happen next year, but however, we're going to celebrate our 115th anniversary in London on the 26th of November. Sorry. Next. And that's the event in industry sectors. All the events we're having will be together with industry partners who take care of the program. So all the conferences and events will be relevant to the individual sectors and industries. We will have all over UK and Scotland and England next year. Next. And our focus from now moving forward is, of course, growing membership base, is developing contact with the network partners, content planning for the events. We will develop extra revenue streams, and we will post and publish newsletters and social media member content there. And we need to increase, have more legs and boots on the ground. And that's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Kira. It's always good to hear from NBCC. And just to say to everybody, I can confirm that Granite PR and the Aberdeen-Norway Gateway has been a member since 2014. So we look forward to continuing that relationship with you. Okay.
Thank you, Ed.
So, okay, on we go, Stacey. And without further ado, I would like to move on to the business speakers now today. And we've got quite a few to get through. But first of all, with us yesterday and back for more today is Tony from RamBase. Tony, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Brett, for that. Good afternoon, everybody. I'd just like to thank Brett and his team for putting together this great event. For those who were not on yesterday, my name's Tony Flanagan. I represent RamBase, a Norwegian ERP software organization who started up here in the UK. If you listen to my presentation yesterday, sorry, next slide, Stacey. Sorry about that. If you listen to my presentation yesterday, we were explaining sort of the indicators of when you should be considering a new ERP system. What I'm going to talk about today is the relevance of cloud ERP for the oil and gas supply chain, the challenges that some of the SMEs are facing, and also I'll finish with a case study of one of our customers who's actually based in Stavanger in Norway. Next slide, please. I've been in the ERP space for over 25 years, working in a wide range of areas, such as discrete and process manufacturing, wholesale distribution, and equipment service and rental. My current role here in the UK is the BDM for RamBase. We're working with and targeting companies within industries that are highly regulated, such as oil and gas, agriculture, electronics, and some of the areas that you've been talking about today. RamBase is part of the Hatland Group, which is based just outside Haugesund in Norway. And as part of that the Hatland Group, we have a strong link with oil and gas supply chain in Norway, where we've got quite a number of customers. As you're aware, one of the objectives of the Aberdeen and Norway Gateway event is to help promote business opportunities between Norway and the UK. And Hatland's been involved in one which is the high-speed fibre UK-Norway digital highway project, which is a collaboration in which the Hatland Group is an investor. Okay, next slide, please. What I'd like to touch on now is what is cloud ERP? I believe anyone who's been in business as long as I have will have come across the term ERP at some point in their business life. Many people have definitions, but ERP is referred to as a type of integrated software that organizations use to manage their day-to-day business activities, such as finance, sales and marketing, procurement, logistics, quality, and compliance. These have been until recent times where you would have had an on-site infrastructure and support. These solutions also offer great benefits and functionality that has been out of reach for many SME businesses for a long time. But with the advent of ERP in the cloud for SMEs, it's now more affordable to small businesses without the need of costly on-site infrastructure. And what it offers is shorter and less costly implementation cycles and no more upgrades. Cloud ERP is provided as a software as a service or a SaaS model, which is more commonly known today, which allows users and businesses to access ERP from anywhere on any device via the internet. Next slide, please. Challenges that the oil and gas SME supply chains facing. In talking to many small businesses, they tell us that the constraints they face by manual process and systems that have grown up with the business organically, often over many years, is becoming a constraint for their business and business growth. And the points I've put up on the slide there just sort of put out there some of the sort of challenges that we find talking to customers in the oil and gas supply chain. Such things as, you've got complex and large product structures, you've got version and revision handling, complex planning, a very strong focus on documentation and QA, serial tracking, all these sorts of things. But owners are often unaware that there are now affordable options for small businesses to implement a system that provides the level of control, cost management and traceability required to operate in the oil and gas sector. And what a cloud-based ERP solution offers provides a flexible platform for business growth. It's easy to implement and supports your entire business, which means you can compete with larger companies on a level playing field, interact professionally and quickly with your customers and suppliers, and providing all the supporting documentation that's required in that area. And also, it gives you better control over your business in terms of costs, orders, resources. And the big thing is having all the information in one place, accessible from anywhere at any time. Next slide, please. There's lots of benefits from delivering a cloud ERP system. I'm just going to touch on one or two of them. Quality is a big thing when I speak to people in the oil and gas environment arena. And if you don't have it, they say, you can't do business, and it's often as simple as that. But what RamBase provides is a strong, robust quality system that's integrated into the whole manufacturing process, and what that gives you is traceability at item level, and allows you to sort any problems and issues. The other big thing is things like real-time reporting, which allows you to monitor your overall health of your business with complete visibility and easy to use financial reporting, which actually allows you to track costs at a detail level, etc. Next slide, please. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to run a short video case study on one of our customers, which is Ardal Machinery, which is based in the Stavanger area, which will highlight some of the areas I've been talking about. for the ones from Norway, this will be an easy one. It's actually in Norwegian, but it's subtitled in English. And just for your information, Ardal were established in about 97. And as a business, they specialize in order-based manufacture, delivering high-quality machining services, which includes drilling, piping, turning and milling. And the big thing is they don't own any products. It's of their own. And 95% of their work is carried out in the oil and gas industry. And they've been a customer of RamBase for over 10 years. And as Brett was saying earlier about having the opportunity to visit Norway, I had that pleasure last week, where I was in Stavanger for a few days, and I had the pleasure of visiting Ardal's new state-of-the-art factory and see at first hand how they're using RamBase to control and run their business effectively. Stacey, could you play the video for me, please?
Jeg startet Ardal Maskinering som et enmannsfirma tilbake i 97. Og med en vekst fra en mann og under 1 million i omsetning og opp til 50 mann som var på det meste og opp i 130 millioner, så trenger vi tilpasset bedrifter til den situasjonen vi er.
Ardal Maskinering har jo også utviklet seg veldig. Det begynte jo med en liten copyindustri, holdt jeg på å si, med en maskin og en kunde.
Og da begynte vi en prosess med å se på nye ERP-løsninger.
Der har vi jo RamBase. Det er jo det som limer sammen alt. Det er det som er sentralnerver i systemet, i organisasjonen.
Jeg har en del kunderevisjoner her, hvor kundenes representanter kommer og reviderer oss. Og da viser vi jo fram RamBase og går gjennom systemet og viser hvor god kontroll vi har i alle prosesser. Ja, vi kan egentlig gå inn i hver eneste detalj på alle nivåer, og det skryter de veldig av, da.
2 minutter så finner vi fram alt dokumentasjon. Hvem har gjort jobben, hvor han ble kjørt, hva måleutstyr ble brukt på å måle det målet. Vi skal ha et system som vi har råd til å drifte, og noe som ikke koster all vær og mye, og det skal fungere.
Det er der vi har alle dataene. Det er der alt skjer, holdt jeg på å si. Det har jo hjulpet betraktelig, for vi har fått mye som vi ville ha. Og det har alltid vært veldig greit å kommunisere med RamBase for å diskutere utfordringene våre, så de har vært med og hjulpet og tilpasse systemet sånn vi har fått kontroll på det vi ville ha kontroll på.
Det er et omfattende program, så det tar jo litt tid å lære det, men når du først har lært det og kommet inn i de forskjellige kodene og sånn, så er det veldig oversiktlig og enkelt å bruke, og du veldig enkelt finner det du trenger på alle nivåer egentlig.
Med å ha en mobil god løsning der du kan være på hele tiden, da du ønsker det, og oppfylle ting underveis, er utrolig viktig for meg da i alle fall.
Alt blir fulgt opp i RamBase. Du jobber ikke for mye mot ERP-systemet, for vi jobber med maskinering, det er jo det vi skal. ERP-systemet er limet, så får alt det henge i hop.
Jeg synes det er veldig bra å kunne bruke RamBase på den måten.
Det skjer i real-time alt.
Når vi spør gutter på gulvet og i maskinene, så er det ingen som vil gi tilbake til noe av de tingene vi har hatt tidligere.
Thank you, Stacey. Next slide. Hope you found that interesting. I did last week, I must admit, when I went around their new factory. It was quite an eye-opener. It was. Just coming back to RamBase in terms of, what's in the RamBase DNA. One of the big things is about cloud computing these days. It's very easy to get started. In some eyes, people will say all you need is an internet connection, but I think there's a little bit more than that. But what you also need is that needs to be supported by an agile implementation process. The other side of it is, from the RamBase side, is that, having worked in the oil and gas industry for quite a number of years, and our experience, we understand what's required and have industry templates which help us control the complexity with a project while you focus on your core business. This helps to prepare you for the future, which RamBase provides a perfect base for future growth with a cloud-based solution that scales. And the big thing, certainly in my experience coming from where I've come from over the last 25 years, is there's no future costly upgrades. And the the big thing, as you saw in the video, is having that real-time information across your whole enterprise. In other words, having a single source of the truth to make your business decisions on. That's all I've got to say today. Next slide, please. If you've got any questions or anything, you can put them in the chat, or we can talk in the Q&A session. But there's some. I'm sure Brett will be sending out all the connections and links to all the information at the end of the session. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Tony, and thank you for giving up time on both days to give us two different insights to the ERP world and different technologies of how they can benefit supply chain and companies that are here today. And yes, we absolutely will be at the end tomorrow as a thank you for the last 2 days, sending out key contacts from the speakers and additional resources that people can reach out for. And I know, Tony, you're also going to be a regular visitor moving forward to the Granite City in Aberdeen, as well as Stronachs. So
and we will be at ONS next year as well. We'll be actually have a stand with our partner BDO in Norway. So,
excellent.
Yeah.
Great stuff. So thank you for that. And any questions for Tony, feel free to pop them in the chat. Okay, Stacey, we will carry on. And it's, I always find in all the gateways, and this is the 29th gateway, but we find case studies work really well with the audience. And there's nothing quite like showcasing a Scottish-based company or a UK-based company that has internationalized. And it's great when they're prepared to share that journey, not just the glory moments, but some of the challenges along the way as well. So it is my absolute pleasure to introduce the COO of Motive Offshore, James Gregg, who will share Motive's journey from Scotland and UK to Norway, which I hope you will all find very useful. James, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Brett. Hopefully you can all hear me loud and clear. So my name is James Gregg. I'm the Chief Operations Officer at Motive Offshore, like Brett said. I just want to start off say that my slides that Stacey will go through, they're not actually related to what I'm talking about. So just in case anybody was wondering what was going on. So a little bit about myself to start off with. I started my career when I left school as an apprentice technician in the fishing industry. Fast forward 15 years and I'm still working for the same company who transitioned to oil and gas during the period. And I was as far as I could go in the hierarchy. So in 2010, I left and Motive was born. I really believe that my early career challenges and experiences, coupled with the challenges in growing a business from the ground up, has forged me into the leader that I am today. And without these valuable experiences under my belt, I would think I'd struggle to manage the business as it is today. On a personal side, my hobbies are transporting my kids to after-school activities, although I probably shouldn't say that was a hobby, I'll get in trouble for that. Restoring vintage steam engines. I'm also a keen fitness enthusiast and currently in training along with our CEO, Dave Acton, for an Ironman next year, which we'll be doing to raise money for charity. Just before I go into the nuts and bolts, I'd just like to say that Brett gave me some pointers and rules to comply with, such as no swearing, make sure you're not on mute when speaking, switch off your phone, stick to your times, and no blatant sales pitches. However, I must warn you that I'm not very good at following rules, so I apologise for anything in advance. So why did we choose Norway as our first overseas base? So we moved into Norway in 2013 after starting the business in 2010, so it's really early on in the journey. Norway was a natural choice for us because of the obvious proximity to the UK. We also built up a large Norwegian client base before establishing a presence, and we already had a strong working relationships in place. This was founded on long-term relationships that I had along with some of our management team from working in Norway in previous years. So our Norwegian office, as I said, started in 2013 with just two of our existing UK staff, both of whom relocated to run the operation full time. Ryan, who's currently our Norway country manager, was one of them. The team undertook the task of establishing and setting up the base, building a rental fleet, growing our brand in Norway, and generating new business. We did this in a staged approach, initially taking advantage of an incubator type arrangement which is provided to us by Enermec, and latterly we managed to expand into our own yard space and office within the GMC group facilities. We saw this at the time as a further stepping stone to having our own dedicated facility. The Norway team built the business from the ground up and quickly found themselves very busy, with revenue growing month on month. However, we're soon to find ourselves in the midst of the oil and gas downturn in 2015, where things took a drastic change across the industry as a whole. A collapse in the rental rates and the overall adverse impact of the global downturn led us to reluctantly take the decision to close the Norwegian office so we could consolidate efforts around ensuring the business as a whole would survive. Our expat Norway team relocated back to the UK and to the UAE, which we found to be almost immune to the downturn at the time. Unfortunately, we needed to make all our Norwegian employees redundant, along with over 40 staff in the UK, in order for the business to survive. I can look back now at that time and say that, you know, we only just survived going under, and that was thanks to the founders' grit and determination, and our staff, clients, and suppliers' goodwill. So moving forward, Ryan continued to run the Norwegian arm of the business as a satellite office from the UK, and without the Norwegian overhead and only really equipment shipping costs back and forth, we found we could still compete, and we're actually quite successful in gaining a fair market share in this manner. So a period of hard work and dedication from Ryan and the wider team saw us pull through tough times, and by 2019, Ryan had returned to Norway full-time to establish a new base. As Motiv AS adjusted post-downturn, elsewhere we continued to grow internationally with new bases in the Middle East and the US. Across the group, we had been steadily increasing and diversifying our service lines. By the end of 2019, we acquired a local company in Norway called PumpTech AS. This was a strategic acquisition which allowed us to offer a wider product range to our clients, to grow our footprint in Norway, and to gain access to a wider client base. A little bit about the company culture, which I think is important. So we believe our strong team make us what we are today. One of our start lines is people, product, performance. We put our people's health, safety, well-being and development at the highest priority in the business, and these efforts take up a big part of my role within the business. By believing in our people and putting them first, we have achieved a solid and resilient business foundation. Our people come from a variety of backgrounds and have different areas of expertise and diverse ambitions, but all share a common mindset: people, product, performance. These core values form the model of our entire organisation. We care about our impact. And that's why everyone at Motiv lives by the premise of accountability in every action. Providing a first-class service means that Motiv is extremely passionate about investing in continual training for our people. We ensure they are the best at what they do and encourage individuals to grow their careers and develop within the company. It's for this reason that we have a high employee retention rate and a structure that enables career progression. Motiv is committed to the importance of HSEQ, demonstrating this through actively promoting a culture of safety, customer focus, protection of the environment, and responsibility to employees across its various spaces globally. This has resulted in a positive work environment with an honest, open culture, leading to highly motivated and experienced employees, all contributing to the success of the business. It has also significantly enhanced our customer service, ultimately setting Motiv apart from its competitors. So Motiv AS, as of today, we're proud to have a 1,500 square metre base in Stavanger with an excellent yard and office and workshop facility and a fantastic team of 15 employees led by our country manager, Ryan. The Motiv AS team comprises of both British and Norwegian employees and is a highly skilled group of people wholly committed to the success of the business there. Norway has proven to be an excellent arena to explore new opportunities, particularly as we continue to accelerate our growth, and within the renewable energy, a strong focus for Motiv. We keenly observe developments in this area in Norway, recently completing our first offshore wind project in the region. An extensive rental fleet of equipment is operating out of our Norway base, including operators and technicians. We did our second acquisition at the end of last year of a company called Flowline Specialists in the UK, and we're currently establishing their products and services in Norway just now. So Motive's offering as of today across the group, we've structured the business into three main product and service divisions, which all have a MD leading them. These are Spooling Inspection Division, which offers wire rope spooling, NDT, lubrication and sales of wire ropes, lifting gear, NDT and certification, roller inspections, hydraulic hose integrity, umbilical and cable testing. We've then got Engineering Division, which does design and manufacturing of all our standard products in our sales catalogue, also bespoke products to suit our clients' needs. Subcontract fabrication and machining services to the client's own designs, quayside sea fastening, and equipment service, refurbishment and maintenance. We then have Rentals Division, which rents out our back deck equipment, and the range of which is vast and ever increasing. I would probably be here for 10 minutes if I told you all the different bits of kit, so leave that alone just now. And also a large team of operators and technicians. And our overall vision there with the products and services is to offer an integrated service to our clients to provide almost a one-stop shop for all their needs for the back deck and beyond, which is another one of our strap lines. Just a couple key facts and figures. So we're now sitting with over 200 staff. I think we're about 215 as of today, and probably got 4 or 5 different recruits that we're looking for as well. And our turnover this year will hit 28 million. So that's just to give you a kind of feel for the scale of the business. So just finishing off, I'd like to say that both myself and Ryan would like to extend an offer to all that we're here for advice and support for any Scottish companies who may be looking to penetrate the Norwegian markets. We're already agents in Norway and further afield for other Scottish companies whose products have synergies with ourselves. And we also can offer an incubator type service similar to what we enjoyed from Enamic in the early days in Stavanger. And just finally, I'd like to say thanks to Brett and Stacey and the wider team at Granite PR for their time and effort in hosting this event. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, James. And I really appreciate you giving your time, but also just being so open and honest with it. It's made a very powerful case study on your journey to Norway and how you've got to where the successful position you are in today, where you can help others. And just to mention again that Ryan, that James was referring to there, is also a global Scot, and that Motive do have that option to act in that sort of incubating first step and advice space for anyone looking at early venture into Norway. So thank you very much, James. And James's contacts will be in the follow-up note that comes out tomorrow for anyone that wants further advice or connections. So thanks for that. Okay, Stacey, on we go. So now our next speaker is actually a recorded speaker because of other commitments today, but I am delighted to introduce Johan Nielsen, who is the head of the energy team at Stronachs law firm in Aberdeen, and who has also had a lot of interest with Norway over the years. So Stacey, let's hear from Johan now.
A little bit about Stronachs LLP. We're a legal firm, 15 partners, 110 people, based principal place of offices in Aberdeen, but offices also in Inverness and London. The firm stretches back 200 years and is one of the it's one of a number of firms incorporated, but has its roots going back to the 18th century. Stronachs is one of the largest client bases and headcounts in the north and northeast of Scotland, and divides up into a number of teams, including energy. Next slide, please. So net zero, how did we get here? It's interesting to note on the Sunday Times article that last Monday, coal as part of the UK energy mix went from 0 to more than 5% that day. Its highest level since the winter. Wind power dropped to just 2.5%, down from 21% at the same time the week before. And that's as a result of certain climatic conditions, high pressure, little wind, etc. So today we have challenges in the energy industry of matching targets, which we're just coming to, against what's happening from a day-to-day perspective and the supply and security of supply of energy. So the debate started in 1988 on climate change with Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the IPCC. They were concerned, a group of scientists was concerned about the increase in particular greenhouse gases, but also other emissions. And in 1990, they produced their first assessment report. The United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, setting out certain concerns and targets, was put together in 1992, and that became a binding targets in a treaty, the Kyoto Protocol, which was followed by the Paris Agreement. And the Paris Agreement is probably the most important of all, because that had certain targets on Annex 1 and Annex 2 countries set out in the protocol agreement, and certain mitigation steps, including net zero. In August 2021, the IPCC released their Climate Change 2021, the Physical Science Basis Report. And that really is a key turning point. 14,000 scientific papers from around the world were reviewed by leading scientists in the area. And it's the most important report and of its sort in the world to date. And it said basically that the world is heating up, the oceans are heating up, and land heating up much faster than we thought, and that countries are not really adhering to their Paris obligations. And this is really a wake-up call for COP26 and the leading countries and what they're going to do about it. COP26, as you know, is based in Glasgow, Scotland, and the UK is taking a lead role in chairing that meeting. Next slide, please. So what does net zero mean? It's really achieving a balance between emissions reduced and emissions absorbed or removed. So the alternative is gross zero emissions, and that was seen to be unachievable in that there are some parts of the economy where you will always have emissions. It also looks at all emissions. The UK is the first major economy to introduce a statutory target of net zero by 2050, and that came into effect in 2019, and then was amended in an order in 2019 under the Climate Change Act 2008-250 Target Amendment. So that sees net zero emissions in the UK, 100% net zero emissions by 2050, with staggered targets to that date. So achieving more than net zero, and that's the real target, it's not just net zero, is by negative emissions and carbon removal. So that includes more forests, less deforestation, and the introduction in a big scale of carbon capture and storage, which we'll come to, and the combination of bioenergy, so that's net zero crops, trees, etc., and carbon capture and storage. But it also includes this new technologies like direct air capture. Next slide, please. So in the UK, we entered into a North Sea transition deal with the government, negotiated with Oil and Gas UK, and it delivers on the UK government's energy strategy and the Prime Minister's 10-point plan on energy and green energy. It's a partnership between the UK government and the UK oil and gas sector to tackle the challenges of achieving and reaching net zero. and also repositioning UK's energy industries, both in terms of people, jobs, and investment. In terms of investment, there are stringent targets, but there's also a £16 billion investment investment in new energy technologies by 2030. So the core objectives are to supply decarbonisation, develop carbon capture, use and storage technology, support low carbon hydrogen production at scale, transform the existing oil and gas supply chain, and support people and skills. And one of the most important things in this is actually supporting people and skills, as well as finding new technologies and investment. Next slide, please. Net zero and oil and gas. In the UK, we do not see oil and gas as an energy source that is going to go and cease shortly. It will be there for the near future and medium term. And oil and gas sector supports an estimated 31.1 billion of GVA, 1.7% of the UK total. It also is hugely important in terms of security of supply, and oil and gas itself represents 56% of global energy consumption in 2020. So the IEA's Net Zero by 2050 report shows oil and gas production will continue to play an important role to green the global energy ecosystem. So the North Sea Transition Deal prepares the sector to start net zero future, and those targets for net zero start in 2025. So it's a very short lead-in to the industry providing a green industry, but net zero production targets. Next slide, please. In Aberdeen, we've got the Scottish Government's Energy Transition Fund. 62 million Energy Transition Fund was launched on 12th of June 2020. Partly this was to mitigate the effects of COVID, but it also now includes a transition to net zero. The position in the northeast of Scotland, it positions northeast of Scotland as a hydrogen model region, and it supports businesses in oil and gas and energy sectors over the next 5 years as they diversify, and helps to attract private sector investment in the region. So one of the key things is the global underwater hub and the new transition zone, but also the Acorn CCS project. Next slide, please.
1 minute left, Johan.
Okay. The net zero projects in Aberdeen include 26 million accelerator into the energy sector's transition to net zero emissions. This directly supports 2,500 green jobs by 2030, plus a further 10,000 transition-related jobs. The global underwater hub really takes the success of the UK's subsea industry, which is 40% of the world subsea industry, and takes that into green energy and develops UK's underwater engineering capability, and in particular looks at the blue and green economies. Next slide, please. In Aberdeen, we've got one of the most diverse and greatest number of public sector vehicles, 65 public sector hydrogen vehicles, and one of Europe's largest hydrogen bus fleets. Next slide, please. And lastly, what I want to say is something about the Acorn project, the first project in terms of carbon capture and storage in the UK, supported by UK government funding. So this takes CO2 and pumps it back into storage through the Golden Eye pipeline using St Fergus terminal. So the message I think at the moment is we are in great change in transition, and we're trying to balance the price of energy, security of supply of energy in the future, but also trying to achieve this net zero. And the balance is very difficult. We've got our targets in the UK, and we're trying to achieve those targets as set over the next 5 to 10 years. Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye.
So I would like to thank Johan for that. And as I said, he's not with us today, but if you have any questions, let us know and we'll happily do an email introduction or connect you. So without further ado, we will move on to our next speaker. And I'm delighted to introduce Ragnar from the Front Group in Norway. So Ragnar, I look forward to learning a bit more about the Front Group in Norway today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Brett, and thank you, Stacey, for allowing. Next, please. Yes, I will present to you energy fields of the future as we see it in Front Group. And my name, as Brett stated, Ragnar Olin, CTO in Front Group. Quickly about myself, I'm background from the Aker engineering back in the 90s, EPC, and then 20 years in ABB, responsible for the whole greenfield projects within control system, electrical and telecoms, and what we called integrated and now calling digitalization. Next. Quickly on the agenda, as you see, I will give you a quick glimpse of Front Group and Front Site. Next, please. Front Group is a consultancy company, and it was started in 2011 by two of the main managers in the Ormen Lange asset. This is a gas compression plant at close to Molde. And it supplies 20% of the gas consumption within the UK at one startup. What it has developed over the years is that we have a very good part in operation readiness, and close to that we have digitalization. Operation readiness is basically that we sit in projects and we prepare for the transition to operation and make it happen as seamless as possible. And that is an important part there is digitalization, and automation is a significant part of that as we see it. As well, digitalization and predictive maintenance, remote operations, robot technologies, life cycle information, documentation around these projects as well. Front Site, that's an equipment part, and it's a startup company where we designed corrosion under its isolation sensor, CUI as it's called, and we're now testing this one close to the gate at Ormen Lange, along with the market's best CUI sensors to see how it behaves out in the weather. I have given the links to the companies below there, if any interest. Next, please. So two thoughts at the same time, as it has been discussed a lot here. The climate report came, and the last one is quite clear. And as I look at it, we have two things happening. One is to continue the oil and gas production, and two, to have the green energy moving forward. And for us in Front Group, we're working directly for the oil companies like Aker BP, DNO, Wintershall DI, Vår Energy, etc. And it's basically to work with technology to lowering cost and emissions. And this will be a significant part for the energy companies in the transition to green energy. What we find important, there has been a lot of digitization projects, if you look back, a lot of good innovation and a lot of data, and we see that it's really to get that data playing. And there we see automation system as a significant part to modernize, and we utilize our operational experience and project experience to balance this, and as well to try to pull the vendors closer to the energy companies in the cooperation. We see a lot of power from shore installations, as Richard mentioned. And if we move across to section 2 there, there's a tremendous knowledge in the industry competence that moves over to fuel the green energy revolution. And what should we do there? Identify common areas of utilization. And we both need maintenance, both wind and oil and gas. And hopefully we will see some years from now that the power from shore installations reverse the energy back to mainland. And this is a significant change. And we in Front Group, and I think many, look at this as a huge chance. Next, please. Where are we today? It's to a high degree driven to traditional operational methods. And what we really want to see is to move this forward to new technology. A lot is done on 3D modeling, as I said, data, etc. But now it's time to show it in use. Next, please. So where do we see the need of Front Group presence? We work a lot with digitization of frontline operations. In that, we have projects for Aker BP where we basically manage to do automation modification and extensive use of process simulator, virtual tests, commissioning to make this more efficient. We do as well have moved the control room of Ivar Aasen as in project management for Aker BP to control room. Now we're very central in Trondheim, so that's a very good experience. We work with predictive maintenance, advanced wireless sensors, and we as well are on the way to move in to be an agent in Norway for robots. And we think LCI can be utilized directly on the vendor systems instead of using all the energy to move it over across to the energy companies. Unmanned installation is to come. Next, please. So the opportunity landscape ahead is really what we see: unmanned installations and walk to work. And we work today with clients that we worked actually to find multi-purpose vessels that can actually handle both wind and oil and gas, and as well take a lot of the different functions that they do today in one huge vessels. So, and what we see is sharing between energy companies, even wind, to get down the pricing, and the vessels can be powered by ammonia, hydrogen, or batteries. We see already Ocean Infinity Armada that has started to build 8 vessels unmanned for the purpose of subsea inspection. Next, please. So the conclusion: the oil and gas industry is still very traditional, but it happens a lot. And the challenge is, of course, safety, environmental impact, and cost. Automation and digitization, we really find that as a low-hanging fruit that we work a lot with. And moving operations onshore, make things safer and better working conditions, of course, for the employed. New business models, I think that's an icebreaker to move fast forward. So I think back to the pulp and paper industry in the 90s, where they actually offloaded as well operation. And that is a possibility we see in Front Group to actually go together with the other companies in the Molde region to manage to, as a long-term view, take over operation. Measure on safety, environment, and uptime KPIs. Next, please. So how do we see it when 20 years from now? I'm retired, that's for sure. But hopefully it's a remote, we see in Front Group a remote operation and automation that is really has made a huge step forward. Autonomous systems and work processes. And hopefully all these offshore activities can be combined: oil and gas, wind, mining, fish farming is on its way, maybe solar as well, some solutions there. So the time will show. And thank you for listening. Anyone wanting to contact me is my email address is in the front of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ragnar, for giving us an overview of the front group. And I know if anyone would like to learn more about the front group, Lena has put the contact details in the chat, and also Ragnar's contact details are there. And if anyone would like an introduction, just come to myself or Stacey and we'll do our very best to facilitate that. So thank you, Ragnar. It's lovely always hearing from Norwegian groups and companies, and I've really enjoyed that. Thank you for that.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, our last speaker, but by no means least, is a double act today, and I am delighted for the first ever time at a Gateway to welcome Aberdeen Harbour Board, which will be represented by Luigi, and he's going to do a double act with Sea Cargo, with Andrew at Sea Cargo. So Luigi and Andrew, I look forward to our debut from Aberdeen Harbour and our double act today. Thank you.
Thank you, Brett. Hopefully we can keep up the expectations. So first of all, I'd like to say very much thanks to Brett and Stacey for inviting us to the event and for organising this Aberdeen-Norway Gateway event. It's such an interesting thing for us to participate in, because trade with Scandinavia has really been at the core of our business for such a long time. And I think it was right to do it together with our business partner really in that trade that provides that sea connectivity link to Scandinavia Sea Cargo. That's why Andrew has joined me. So if you go to the next slide, please, Stacey. I think before going into details of the presentation, for those of you who are not aware, I thought it would be worth giving a brief introduction about both Aberdeen Harbour Board and Sea Cargo. Starting from us, we are the oldest business in the UK. We've been on the go since 1136, and it's relevant to say in this context because we've evolved and transformed since to become now really what could be described as an integrated logistics and services hub, supporting the offshore energy market, but also the general cargo and other sectors. And very much at the heart of that is trade and supporting local businesses and their international locations. From an organizational standpoint, from a legal standpoint, we're a trust port, and that's what given us that long-term ability to plan and to change, and that resilience to support business over the time. Last but not least, we're very much committed to supporting the energy transition and innovation along the way. I'll touch upon some further details on that. I'll pass on to Andrew for a brief introduction about Sea Cargo.
Thank you, Luigi. So I'm here today to speak about our line of services linking Aberdeen to Norway, which facilitate the movement of goods. There's actually been a line of service in place from Aberdeen since 1978. Sea Cargo became the operator of in 2002. We also provide terminal operations and vessel agency services for other port users here in Aberdeen. Luigi?
Yeah, if you can take us to the next slide, Stacey, please. I thought to set the scene, before going into more detail about the specifics of Sea Cargo's offering, it was worthwhile putting into perspective the type of trade between Aberdeen and Norway. We've got a vibrant business both in terms of import and export, but I suppose that most of you who are not in the details of what moves between the two countries will be surprised to hear the majority of this trade is not linked to oil and gas. In terms of import business, the vast majority of the cargo is dry and wet bulk products, primarily paper slurry that goes to the paper mills. In terms of the export market, again, the lion's share of the export is not oil and gas. It's animal food products for non-human consumptions, mainly fish feed. And the fish farming business in Norway is thriving, and the feed product is actually exported from the UK. So from this slide on, I'll pass on to Andrew, who will give you a further overview and details about Sea Cargo. So if we can go to the next one, please.
Thanks again. So just to give you a brief idea of who Sea Cargo are as a group, our head office is in Bergen, Norway, and we provide liner services from Norway to Sweden, Poland, Rotterdam, Isberg, and in the UK, Immingham and Aberdeen. And each port we call, we have our own local offices. And in fact, these are supported by 8 vessels, these networks. Next slide, please. Each of our 8 vessels are very much purpose-built for the market. They're right-sized. They're not too large, not too small. Key for the vessels in Norway is that the ports we're calling, they aren't big places. They're regular calls. So all the vessels, they're roll-on, roll-off, multi-purpose, we call them. I'll give you some more explanation on that. They have container capacity, side door, as well as accepting rolled units. Next slide, please. Of course, we're here today to speak about the Aberdeen routine that we have. So a good vessel, the Sea Cargo Express, here you see in the picture. She arrives in Aberdeen every Sunday. And it's a 20-hour sailing to her first port of call, which is Stavanger, before she starts making her way up the Norwegian coast, following Haugesund, Bergen, Florø, Ålesund, Molde, Kristiansand, and right up to Trondheim on the way. She does, of course, make other ad hoc calls for large cargoes that are particularly hard to move on Norwegian roads. The next slide, please. This is the vessel in Aberdeen, and I'll talk to you about her multi-purpose use that she has. At the rear of the vessel, we have the roll-on, roll-off ramp, moving rolled wheeled units on and off the vessel, most of which are trailers. We have the main deck, of course, supported by the vessel's own crane for lifting on and off containers, other bulky cargoes, which is especially common in the oil and gas industry, which is one of our key clients. And then we have the side door, which is basically what it says on the tin. It's the side door of the vessel, and we can move palletized cargoes, bulk bags like fish feed, on and off the vessel by forklift truck, and they get moved down into a lower hold by the vessel's own elevator. Moving on. One of the most efficient ways to move cargo onto the vessel is by rolling it. We're able to convert non-wheeled units into wheeled cargoes by use of a Maffey, which you can see in some of the pictures here. So we can load a container onto a Maffey, which is a very heavy-duty trailer, and then move it onto the vessel that way. And then, of course, we have other wheeled units, excavators, other items for the construction industry. We've even had helicopters moved on Maffeys and boats, other small boats as well. Moving on. And this is really just an illustration of the wide cargo range that we can take and the wide amount of customers we work with. So we have bags of fish feed, we have timber products coming in from Norway, and we have, of course, the oil and gas industry, which so long has been the backbone of what we do, but we're now seeing other cargoes coming into play, especially agriculture, and we expect to see more of the oil and gas clients transitioning into greener energies as well, expanding the markets. Next slide, please. Of course, a push for greener energy moving forward. So in January, at the start of this year, Sea Cargo retrofitted one of our vessels, the SC Connector, working between Immingham and Norway, with 35-meter tall rotor sails. These essentially catch the wind, they spin, and then they produce forward thrust. And since their introduction, it's actually decreased the CO2 emissions of this individual vessel by 30%. So we're now evaluating other possibilities of putting this elsewhere into the fleet. And these are actually the first tiltable rotor sails in the world. So it's a bit of a world's first. And they need to be tiltable to get under the Norwegian bridges, help our navigation. Next slide, please.
So yeah, I'll wrap up the presentation touching on what Andrew was saying just earlier on, that the market is changing, the cargo is changing, and I think it's appropriate for me to wrap up by giving an overview of what the future holds for Aberdeen Harbour. So first and foremost, our £350 million South Harbour development, that will be open in October next year and will significantly enhance our capabilities both to support the energy industry and the cargo industry. At the same time, we're making very large strides towards supporting a greener maritime trade, first and foremost with our firm commitment to the future development of the shore power infrastructure. We're very proud to say that we've made amazing progress over the last, I would say, 9 to 12 months. Now we have a delivery roadmap in place, and we've been awarded the Clean Maritime Demonstrator competition to carry out some additional engineering for the pilot project. Also on the hydrogen front, which is a really strong growth market, we're delighted to say that we're engaging with Vattenfall on Project HT1, which will bring hydrogen into the port from 2025 to 2026 onwards from the Aberdeen wind farm. And we've been engaging with the wider community to perhaps utilize our hydrogen as a fuel for the vessels in the future. Last but not least, the new harbour that we're building is at the heart of the energy transition zone. For those of you who are familiar with Aberdeen, it's an area around the harbour earmarked for industrial development. And that will be, we think, fundamental to attracting high-value manufacturing to the area, hence the flow of goods associated with those products, primarily focusing on new markets such as offshore wind. So this is all we had to share with you for today. Hopefully it's been interesting enough. And please, if you have any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Luigi and Andrew. Fascinating there. And appreciate you sharing that. And if you have any questions, comments about this enormous development that's going on in Aberdeen, please do let us know. It's a game changer, and it's I think the largest of its type in the UK currently. So I'm sure Luigi and Andrew will.
The largest in the UK for 75 years in terms of maritime infrastructure project.
There you go, largest, so not just the UK, but maritime project in 75 years. What more can you say? That's a game changer, isn't it? So pop your questions in the chat if you've got them for Aberdeen Harbour or for Sea Cargo or any of the other speakers today. Now we're right on time, Stacey.
Yeah.
We're actually 3 minutes ahead of schedule for finishing the actual content piece of the gateway, but we are going to stay on for anyone that wants to ask questions. So do we have any questions? If you haven't had a chance to put them in the chat, feel free to raise your hand or use the raising your hand button, or just unmute yourself and ask them.
Okay, yeah, I've got one first of all from Gary Millard, so I'll read that one out and then I'll look to see if there's any more. And this came in at about 1:10 so it was earlier on. Considering Norway has an extensive oil and gas drilling programme, significantly more than UK, can it be assumed they are looking at net zero on platforms? What can the UK learn from Norway to help projects like Cambo?
Okay, now I think maybe I could ask Leif, Johan or Richard perhaps to give their thoughts on that one, because of that kind of learning between the two nations, lessons learned, ability to cooperate, etc.
I could try, but maybe should I be the first or should I be the second?
Richard, are you still with us? I'm not sure if Richard's still.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, Richard.
Yes, I am.
Hi, Richard. Do you have any thoughts on that one in terms of, looking at, we spoke about it in your talk, didn't we, about what UK was doing and Norway was doing, always being very closely aligned, how they can collaborate, cooperate, lessons learned, etc.
So I think the specific question about greening of production and net zero in production, I think some of the companies are looking very closely at how they can reach net zero, and some of them have made commitments to do that. Certainly in Norway, the thought is, and I'd be interested to hear Leif Johan's view as well, but the thought is that this is going to be achieved by electrification from shore, because of course Norway's own electricity production is already from renewable sources. So if you can both bring out electricity from shore and associate floating wind or even bottom fixed wind with platforms, you can green production. But I think what you've heard the UK talking about is managing down demand for oil and gas and managing up very quickly more renewables capacity. And the government that is coming in Norway, that has been a little bit the talk that they have used as well. So I think we are going to see moves from the companies to limit emissions from offshore production, but also governments stepping in to manage down demand in the longer term, not naming end dates presumably, but actually just managing down demand. Thanks.
I agree that we have two different angles there. We have the political one and we have the industrial one. And maybe the industrial one is driven by the political one quite often, actually. But maybe the best example of, I wouldn't say a zero emission and net zero, but extremely low emission from a platform is Johan Sverdrup field, now producing in the North Sea, very close to the coastline of Norway, fully electrified, and also with a lot of different projects to reduce the emission. On both an industrial level, but also, and don't laugh when I say they don't have any newspapers about. And the reason is actually that every day they brought newspapers that filled up the helicopter with newspapers. So why couldn't they, instead of using the iPhones or the other kinds of equipment? They don't have water bottles because they have dispensers. And then spending so much time and efforts to bring out things which is not needed. That's also a part of the CO2 emission account. So what I have seen from Equinor in this aspect has been extremely interesting. So if you need an example for someone who could go in forefront of something they are doing, and maybe a visit to the Equinor office in Aberdeen, and maybe Brett, you could organize that for everyone. Could I actually tell how this is working? Speaking about, because the question from Gary is also about transfer experience. There's a lot of projects. We have the Troll A platform, which has been rebuilt, reopened recently, producing for a very low cost to a very low emission. So there's several other projects coming up as well. So, and maybe we could, Brett, do this. Of course, we will see it at ONS in Stavanger, but maybe we could do it at Aberdeen as well. Try to set.
Yes, there's probably definitely. I mean, we've as you know, we've had Equinor join us quite often in the past, and at key times like the Mariner, etc. And that's probably a whole new chapter that we need to keep people updated on.
There's no current further questions, Brett. So
yes, I think I was just going to add on that last question. You know, on the net zero point, that what's really exciting, I think, is we're already seeing energy companies, oil and gas companies that are achieving net zero. You know, I think it's often talked about in future tense, but we have several clients I know that we're working with just now that have already graduated and are there, and that's very exciting, because there's actually examples you can point people to or give people to relate to, which to say they have achieved net zero, which is more, I think, helpful. I think the other thing about the net zero thing is, you know, we've spoken about the politics and the business. I think it's increasingly also being driven by investment and finance and banks and private equity as well. So it's all the stakeholders are coming together to increase the momentum. Okay. I think, Stacey, we haven't got another question at the moment.
No.
Anybody want to ask? If not, I'll speak this at the moment. I just would like to update on the next two Gateway dates. We will be back with the UAE, the Abu Dhabi UAE Gateway, on the 3rd and 4th of November. That's part of the build-up to ADIPEC, the week after. And we will be back in the 1st and 2nd of December with Perth, Western Australia. So that's the next two that are scheduled in Q4. But in the meantime, I have been so pleased with the 8th Norway Gateway. We've had fabulous speakers, fabulous case studies, and feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn. And if you have any questions afterwards, just please do message myself or Stacey.